Yes?
How did you get into archaeology?
I was a student, like Lily. I went out on a dig one day, and it was a very, very small tomb. Inside, nothing remarkable. Mummies, no hieroglyphs. But once I lowered myself down into the dark, dusty tomb, I felt a strange flutter in my chest, right here, and I do not know what overtook me, but I knew I had to push very hard on this wall. And it gave way. And you know what was there?
What?
I had opened the door thousands of years back in time. Ancient Egypt was down there. I have never again been the same.
Why would Ramses go through all of the trouble to hide Nefertari away in a false tomb?
Nefertari was most dear to Ramses II. He built her the most beautiful tomb of all the queens. He even built for her a temple at Abu Simbel. Wherever he stood, she stood by him. He was very afraid she would not find him again in the afterlife. He wanted her hidden away for eternity, somewhere small and unremarkable where no one would think to look for her, until the time was right.
What do you mean, until the time was right? Is now the right time?
You have to ask him about that, not me.
What will you do if we find Nefertari?
I will take her to see the world.
Well, she can't exactly see anything. She's dead.
I know she's dead. I'll let the world see her. I will teach everyone why she is important.
Doesn't the world already know that?
No, they don't look hard enough. They need me to show them.
Do you really care about teaching people or just about the exposure?
It has been a long time since someone has had the nerve to speak to me in that manner.
You didn't answer my question.
I won't. I won't answer any question in that tone. Not from you, not from the press, not from some American colleague. I have work to do. Leave me to it.
So that guy Dylan is pretty helpful. I'd say he'd be a smart addition to your team, considering his talent, his experience, you know.
He told you to say that, didn't he?
Maybe.
Tell him he is stupid, but use small words so he understands you.
I'm not going to say that.
Your kindness is as admirable as it is boring.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
So, did you tell Abdullah that I'm trustworthy? How did he react?
Strongly?
I see. Well, good thing that was but a single step in my multi-tiered plan.
Why is it so important that he trusts you?
It's complicated and boring. Boring and complicated. You'd be bored hearing about the more complicated aspects of it.
You're not going to tell me, are you?
Oh, that's the spirit. Facing disappointment and not letting it get you down. Good show. But I am a man of my word, i.e. trustworthy, so I will distract Lily for you.
Great.
What should I do if I see her? Oh, we should have a code word.
I don't know if that's necessary.
Right. How about, look out, it's Lily, or she's back, stop looking at her things.
Okay, first of all, none of those are one word.
Oh, good point. What about danger, or incoming, or impending Lily?
Maybe if you just whistle.
Right. All good options.
Why would he have so many certifications? Why would Dylan have this? Need a key. What a strange lock. There has to be something around to help me figure this out.
I thought I'd be, better at whistling. It's really dry here. Sorry about that.
How'd impressing Abdullah go?
Badly. He used some very inappropriate language. At least I think he did. It wasn't in English.
What brought you to this site?
This might be the next it spot. If it is, I want to have the first tour up and running.
Isn't that a little premature? Tour groups might not even be allowed out here.
Well, then I took a trip to the place I've always wanted to see. No loss.
You seem very casual about everything.
There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
It makes me think you might be hiding something.
If I'm hiding something, then I'm doing such a good job, even I don't notice.
I know you didn't just come here to get a tan. Looks like you're making your own badges. You're not being honest with me about being a guide, are you?
Well, the whole process is less official than you'd expect. Everyone makes their own credentials. Ask around. It might look a bit sketchy, but that's what's done.
How can you prove you are who you say you are?
I don't know if I can.
Why did you become a guide?
I don't know why anyone would ever do anything else.
All right, let's see your guide skills in action.
What?
Well, you're a guide and you want to work this site. Give me a tour.
I thought you'd never ask, but there is a problem. I don't actually know anything about this site yet.
Oh, right.
I suppose I could make a conjecture here or there. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, crowd in everyone, crowd in. Nicely done. You look excellent in that hat, Mrs. Johnson. Your husband must be a very lucky man. A little flattery will get you everywhere as a guide. I am, he says. I could have you two on every tour I give. Now focus! Put your cameras down for a minute. Never forget to remind them to actually look with their eyes. People don't remember you can still do that. The site you see behind me is over 60 billion years old, and it was built by none other than the great Genghis Khan.
That is not right.
It might be right. Remember, no facts. Now, someone will inevitably ask a shockingly stupid question. Well, play along now. Ask me the out-and-out stupidest question you could possibly think of.
Why didn't they write in English?
Yes, exactly. And then I say, very good question. No one knows. And I change the topic. And say something showy like, did you know that there is rumored to be a very deadly curse awaiting those foolish enough to venture into the next room? Now quickly, let's go to the next room. And that is how being a guide is done.
Very nice.
And maybe one day you can see me give a proper tour, if my business survives until you can return.
Bye-bye.
I'll be seeing you.
Maybe the color has something to do with the solution. I should look around for a clue to solve this.
Hotchkiss here?
It's Nancy Drew.
Oh, Francine, dear, I'm so glad you called. I've been having the most infuriating problem with my internet.
This is Nancy Drew.
Oh, you young people are so refreshing, always in search of new identities. The problem is that I downloaded this program called Weather Monkey. At my age, it's important that I keep abreast of all meteorological developments. But now I'm starting a new book, and I can't focus on my work because the Weather Monkey keeps yelling the weather at me.
Maybe you should uninstall it?
I will do no such thing. That would be tantamount to murder.
Maybe turn it down?
Brilliant and fantastic. Oh, yes, Samantha, you are a ticket. I would love to help you, but how do I know you again?
Nancy Drew. We've met a few times.
Aha, now I remember you. If life were a good book, you'd be my favorite reoccurring character.
I'm in Egypt, and I need your help.
Egypt? Well, why didn't you say that instead of chattering away about my internet problems?
I don't know how to respond to that. I read your book, and I thought maybe you could help.
You found my book while you were in Egypt. The serendipity is as delectable as Chateaubriand smothered in lavender lemon juice. I am at your disposal.
I didn't exactly find it. You sent it to me. You even signed it.
Oh dear, I sign and send lots of things.
Have you heard of an expedition that went off in search of Nefertari years ago?
Oh yes, the team in which everyone died, is that the one?
Yes. Do you think that story is true?
Oh heavens, yes. It's deadly out there in the desert. Think about it. You're going out there in search of dead bodies. There must be a reason they're in favor of the area.
But this expedition wasn't searching for QV66, right?
Indeed not. That had already been discovered. They were searching for Nefertari's mummy.
What do you think happened to them?
Oh, it's best you not concern yourself about that now, given your current location.
Have you heard of Abdullah?
Yes, I have. He is December on my Men of Archaeology calendar.
You're kidding me. Does that exist?
It existed the second I made it. Is he there with you?
Yes. He seems full of himself.
He is. Oh, I am not an advocate of pulpy romance novels, but if I were, I'd call that an archable trait. In Chapter 1, he'd swagger into the excavation site, the picture of a rascal with his dusty leather jacket and decidedly European haircut, his cocky ne'er-do-well smirk displaying his perfectly white teeth, but by the end he'd be sweetly holding flowers and saying, "Professor Hotchkiss, I'm dying to discuss your latest publication." A colleague of mine has guilted me into editing her latest romance novel, and I must confess I cannot wait until the project is completed. Reading page after page is absolutely wreaking havoc on my metaphors. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I no longer know.
Abdullah, that's what. He's a cold-blooded hotshot with only one setting: success. Oh, sorry, I've also been helping my nephew break into the movie trailer business. Oh, Hotchkiss, why must you always burn the candle at both ends? He's a good archaeologist who knows Egypt inside and out. He could teach you a thing or two, just don't pick up the attitude.
What is the story with curses?
It's a complicated issue.
What makes it so complicated?
It makes no earthly sense, now does it? But still...
Still what?
Still, the tombs have claimed enough lives to make a fool of logic.
What do you know about Nefertari?
Ah, a love story. Oh, break out the tissue papyrus because when I'm done there won't be a dry Horus in the house.
What?
Look it up, dear. Ramses II and Nefertari shared a love so vast the world could scarcely contain it. I'm talking about the kind of love you spell capital L, capital O, heart instead of a V, capital E. They stood side by side and ruled the world, but as they saw the years stretch out before them, they were keenly aware that a handful of decades would never cut it. They needed to be together always.
That's sweet.
And relevant. The ancient Egyptians believed that life was little more than a dress rehearsal for eternity. I've found records that they concocted a plan to be together forever, side by side.
Why not be buried side by side?
They foresaw a volatile future for their kingdom, and they were correct. They knew they would have to enact safeguards. That's why in 1904, when QV-66, the so-called tomb of Nefertari, was found, her body was not there.
What are the chances we found Nefertari's tomb?
If I were a gambling Hotchkiss, I'd say 60-40.
I still don't get all this business with QV-66. Why build a fake tomb?
For the same reason I never carry my passport in my purse when I travel. Some things are too valuable to leave in a tempting place.
I need your help. The hieroglyphs here don't make sense.
Then you are in for a treat. I like my puzzles as tempting as the gooseberry pie from San Rios in Little Brazil, and as complex as the ginger lime sauce they lovingly smother it in. You should focus on what doesn't make sense. Look for a part of the pattern that has no earthly business being there.
You mentioned an expedition that found QV-66, Nefertari's tomb.
It was one of the most significant finds in archaeology. They call it the Sistine Chapel of Egypt. It's where my fascination with the royalty of Egypt was born. The color alone took my breath away. We think of ancient Egypt as being a subdued sand color, but it was a riotous display with all the visual delights of a midsummer gelato shop cooler case.
And you don't think Nefertari was entombed there?
They only found kneecaps, which supposedly means that her tomb was robbed.
You disagree?
I do. What good is the mummy without the context? It's the placement in the tomb that makes the mummy valuable.
Why is Nefertari so important?
There are two queens I find most fascinating in ancient Egypt, and for exactly the same reason. They were hidden. Hatshepsut is the first.
I think I've heard of her. She was the pharaoh that was almost removed from the historical record, right?
Exactly! 20-some years of peace and stability, and after she dies, Thutmose III's ancient cronies try to erase her from the record.
Why?
Jealousy, revenge, fear that his reign would never equal hers. You name it, but you can't keep a good woman down. Despite the efforts of Thutmose III's supporters, her legacy endured.
And Nefertari?
In my opinion, she's the opposite. She was obsessively preserved in the historical record, but it was her tomb that was hidden.
How sure are you that Nefertari's tomb was hidden?
There was something strange about QV-66. I think that might be why it is off limits to this day.
It is?
To you and me, at the very least. There is a rumor that the tomb has a clue to the true location of Nefertari's mummy.
Really?
Who knows? I'll tell you this. I didn't have time to read all of the hieroglyphs, but I noticed that the syntax was a little, shall we say, wonky.
I don't know how hieroglyph syntax could be non-wonky.
True, but it was almost as if Nefertari and Ramses II had their own language.
Lily seems to be taking this curse business very seriously.
I thought you were, Lily.
The other Lily?
Hotchkiss prank! Oh, you're such a good sport, Nadine. That's a little silly of her, don't you think? Curses may only be a figment of our overactive imaginations.
That's what I think.
There are more pressing things to worry about. Most Egyptologists die because the desert is inhospitable and positively crawling with diseases. Horrid molds and bacteria that have been breeding for thousands of years unchecked. And let's not forget the lack of structural integrity of most of the tombs.
That's less than reassuring.
Oh dear, everybody dies, but life isn't worth living if you don't take a few risks. Although I guess I should stress that everyone dies much faster in the desert. Much, much faster.
Have you heard of the theory that aliens built the pyramids?
Oh, that old gem. Yes, who cares?
Who cares?
Well, unless they're sending us a bill, does it matter?
With all of your work, I assume you'd at least care.
Oh, no, dear. You mustn't let those things bother you. Some of us have keen observational skills and a rigid adherence to the scientific method. And some of us have thought processes that best resemble a piñata explosion at a sugar-fueled child's birthday extravaganza. Either way, if it encourages people to witness the marvels of ancient Egypt in person, it's good work, in my opinion.
Do you believe the Anunnaki exist?
You may as well be asking me if I believe Brian Abernathy Fortinbright exists. I don't know, and further, I could only guess.
Is that a name you just made up?
Yes. Now, given the fact that there are 7+ billion people on Earth, it stands to reason that he may be a real person. And if we apply the Drake equation, we will find the astronomical, no wordplay intended, dear, number of habitable planets in the universe. It is possible that the Anunnaki may exist. But since the evidence is shaky at best, I am much more interested in the here and now.
Same here. You said the evidence of the Anunnaki is shaky. What evidence is there?
Some say if you look at the hieroglyphs, you'll see some of the figures holding flashlights.
Okay, that's strange.
Well, not exactly. It's easy to see what you want to see. Seeing the tombs always made me feel quite simply famished. As the long days would pass, the murals would become quite simply delicious. Osiris would be holding the most wonderful caramel flans. Reeds would be chicken wings, and Cypher for twisted flax would transmogrify into warm, straight out of the oven, garlic knots right before my eyes. My point is that you can see what you want to see, and what I want to see is that takeout menu for the Spicetown Speakeasy. I may have to put you on hold, dear. Just a moment.
I'm still on.
Hotchkiss here. I'd like baguette stuffed with mushroom and sautéed asparagus, and a beef jerky salad with caramel vinaigrette.
That can't be a real food item.
Is that still you, Norma?
Nancy?
Is this your first day at Spicetown? I'm Hotchkiss. We'll be talking to each other quite often. Would you kindly summarize your personality for me, for efficiency's sake?
No, it's Nancy Drew. Still on the line, still in Egypt.
Oh, drat and drat. Well, perhaps I'll just be dull and prepare myself a curried waffle sandwich.
Can you help me sort out some canopic jars?
Oh my, yes, let's see. A human and 3 animals. A jackal was Duwamatef, baboon, Hapi, and Kebasenuef. They also represented the 4 cardinal points, each protecting a sacred organ. I seem to remember that Hapi was the lungs.
See ya.
Bye, dear.